Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Talk of the Town podcast. If you have not already, make sure to hit that subscribe button, as we're now on the road to 400 subscribers here on the YouTube channel. If you love sports content, sports talk, anything from sports betting to updated rankings every week, it's all right here on the Talk of the Town podcast. And here today, we have Why Not Wednesday, where I answer any questions you guys have for me right here on the podcast. If you want your questions answered here every Wednesday, make sure to hit at Talk of the Town _pod on Instagram or TikTok, or hell, even right here in the YouTube comments if you'd like. And let's get into the first question here today. Bills fan here. I still believe Josh Allen and the Bills can win a Super Bowl this year, as Josh Allen is the best player in the league. I do blame a lot of our failures on Brandon Beane, as he just hasn't done enough, and McDermott shouldn't be on any sort of hot seat, in my opinion. I think the Bills can absolutely make the Super Bowl. I just think the only issue they have is their defense. And their offense has kind of been consistent. I think right now they're definitely at a low this season. I mean, you come off of a pretty statement win against the Kansas City Chiefs, which that rivalry has been there for about 7 years or so now. I mean, really since the start of Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes' career, those two have had some sort of rivalry. It's always different in the regular season and the playoffs for both of those teams, obviously, in terms of the outcome. But you're coming off of a pretty good high, to be honest with you. And then the next week you go and just get blown out by the Miami Dolphins. I mean, that's brutal. Now you're 2 games back from New England. So it just kind of feels like everything was steering in the right direction. And then a week later, everything is just in the wrong direction. People are talking about, is Sean McDermott really the guy heading forward for this team? And I get it. The tides have completely changed with the Bills. I think we all know, though, that as long as they have Josh Allen, and you're right, he's one of the best players in the league right now. There's absolutely no doubt about it. Him, Lamar Jackson, are one of the most talented players to ever touch the field in the NFL. They just are. Again, as long as you have Josh Allen, you're at least going to make the playoffs. But the Super Bowl just doesn't quite feel like it's a lock for the Bills. I feel like if there's any year for them to do it, it was last year and this year. And for me, the Bills has just felt like they're in the same spot where they're at every year. They're probably going to finish 11-6 or something like that, win a playoff game or two, and lose to whoever. Probably Kansas City if they end up getting to the playoffs. I guess we'll find out. If I had to assume, I'd say Kansas City's most likely going to get to the playoffs. And that's their biggest obstacle. They don't seem to have a problem with Baltimore, really, and no one else to really any sort of extent. They just can't get past Kansas City, which I'm not necessarily going to hold them to. I mean, all those years with Brady in New England, how many guys like Roethlisberger, Manning, those guys couldn't get over the hump with Brady and the Patriots at all. So them, Lamar, and even Josh Allen, I'm not going to sit there. And if they can't beat Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in the AFC Championship, hell, Manning and Roethlisberger, those guys couldn't do it years ago going against the Patriots dynasty. So, that's really the only hump they have to get over. I think you're right, though, about Brandon Beane. I don't think he's taking enough heat. I think Sean McDermott, I think his seat is a little warm. I don't necessarily know if he'll get fired. I think Bills fans are starting to getting a little bit fed up, especially with just kind of the same result year in and year out. Teams just kind of get sick of it. It's like we have the best player, one of, if not the best player in our organization's history. And we have a short window, Super Bowl windows. Not every window is a dynasty like the Patriots and the Chiefs. They're short-lived. Sometimes, Baltimore's window feels like it's closing, and that's where it kind of feels like the Bills are on the verge of it closing, but they can keep it open. And you just kind of feel like if it's another year where you're 11-6 or 12-5, and you end up getting knocked out in the divisional or the AFC Championship, and you don't even make the Super Bowl, it just feels like another wasted year has gone by. And I do think Brandon Beane does deserve some heat. I just feel like, the Joey Bosa signing, it was nice, but I feel like maybe he's a little timid to make another signing, especially after that old Von Miller signing a few years ago. Sometimes those signings can haunt GMs and stuff like that. They just can't. And I kind of feel like that's where the Bills are at. Is like, I feel like they're one real big splash move away. Like, they got Amari Cooper last year, but that didn't really work out. Like, Amari Cooper was pretty much done. He's retired now. He hasn't even played a snap at all this season. He retired after playing with the Bills, signed with the Raiders at the beginning of this year, and just called it quits. I mean, that's just kind of goes to show you where he was in his career. I mean, he was definitely not where he was a few years ago when the Browns made the playoffs with Joe Flacco. I mean, Amari Cooper still seemed like he was in his prime then. So you kind of see stuff like that as like, or he probably sees stuff like that to where, we tried to get Amari Cooper. We tried to get Von Miller, and like this stuff just isn't really working. And hey, again, as long as you have Allen, you mentioned he's one of the best players in the league. To you, he's the best player in the league. And to a lot of people, he is. I mean, he's just coming off an MVP season. So if you wanted to argue him or whoever right now is the best player in the league, he's definitely in that conversation. But, he didn't have a great game against Miami. And a lot of people say, well, they need receiver help. The Bills need receiver help really bad. I don't necessarily think so. I mean, if they wanted to go out, I think they could definitely upgrade the receiving room. But look at the Chiefs' receiving room. I mean, that's not necessarily the greatest in the world. They're rocking with Hollywood Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster and Xavier Worthy. I mean, I think, what's his name? Shakir is plenty capable enough. Keon Coleman, kind of just a go up and get it kind of guy. They used a first-round pick on him. Who else they got? They got Joshua Palmer. I mean, Kincaid's not like Travis Kelce or anything, but I mean, he's had a couple 100-plus yard games this year. He's actually been really good, in my opinion. So, I mean, of course, he's not Kelce or anything like that, but even still, he's been pretty good otherwise. So I think the receiving room is more than capable enough of taking this team on a run, especially when you have Allen and James Cook as well in the backfield. I think their offense is plenty fine. I mean, I just think it's their defense. I think they have to load on defense. That's what I preach at a lot of teams. I'm trying to go on Super Bowl runs. It's like you look at a lot of their teams, their defense does not suck. They have high-level, all-world players on that defense, and the Bills just don't feel like they have that. Their defense has kind of cost them all year. I mean, Miami put up, 30 on them last week or something like that? And I know they had a really good performance against the Chiefs last week, but then you just blow an absolute stinker the next week to the Dolphins. So again, I think their defense is really the only thing in their way, and their offense is a little inconsistent, but I think it's plenty capable. It's not even really inconsistent. They put up a lot of points, but even still against the Falcons, they just kind of sucked against the Falcons. I mean, look at where the Falcons have been at the last, 3-4 weeks now, ever since the Bills win, really. I mean, they got blown out to Miami, and Buffalo ended up losing to Atlanta. So I think Buffalo's in a weird spot. There's still plenty of time. What's there, 8 weeks left, 7-8 weeks left now going into week 11. So they have plenty of time. And really what matters is if you can just get to the playoffs, which I'm more than certain they absolutely will get there, then anything can happen. You have to win 3 games. At this point, Buffalo's not looking like they're going to get the number 1 seed and only have 2 games to get to the Super Bowl, but it only takes 3 games. 3 games against very tough opponents, but it's really just about getting there is what matters. And about Sean McDermott is, again, I think it's kind of a weird spot for Sean McDermott. I kind of feel like him and John Harbaugh are in the same boat a little bit. Like, they're in where their Super Bowl window kind of feels, it's definitely closer to the end than when it started. Like, their Super Bowl windows for Baltimore and Buffalo both are kind of starting to come to a close. So your fans, your organization kind of starts panicking a little bit, and you look around and you point fingers. And of course, we're not going to point the finger at Josh Allen. I mean, again, Josh Allen has been playing perfectly fine. I'm not going to say perfectly fine. Yeah, see, he has had some not very good games so far this season. Miami, he didn't have a great game last week. Divisional games get kind of weird. So I give some quarterbacks and teams the benefit of the doubt, especially with divisional games. But people are going to point the finger to Sean McDermott. That's going to be the first one they point to. They're definitely not going to point to Josh Allen. So and you start looking at the Unity coaches. He's a defensive coach, and their defense isn't very good, especially their run defense kind of gets torn alive. I mean, Devon Achane just kind of went ballistic on the Bills defense last week, and he's a really good player. I think just about any team in the league would love to have him on their team. But they made him look like Barry Sanders out there last week. So their run defense, even their pass defense hasn't been very good, to be honest with you. You start looking, that's his main specialty is he's a defensive head coach. And you just kind of start looking around, and Joe Brady as well. I mentioned on my podcast a few weeks ago, that when you have offensive coordinators start kind of getting in the head coaching cycle, they are being talked about as a hot candidate to be a head coach. I feel like they start showing off, and he has Josh Allen as his quarterback. He's out there. He's not trying to run the ball 20 times with James Cook. He's just not. He wants to go out there and make Josh Allen look pretty out there on the field and run a sexy offense or whatever it is. But it's costing them games. I do agree. I don't think Joe Brady's very good, and he's in a weird spot as well. It's like he's being talked about being fired as the offensive coordinator, but being on as a hot candidate for a head coaching job. So he's in a really weird spot, and I feel like he's trying to show off a little bit with that offense. He doesn't feel like, and kind of churning the ball out with James Cook, having Josh pass 18, 19, 20 times a game, which is, mind you, what they did against the Carolina Panthers a few weeks ago, and they beat the shit out of them. Josh Allen only had like 19 passes, I think. They're incredibly efficient. James Cook had like 200 yards. Whenever Cook rushes the ball and gets the heavy workload, that offense looks fantastic. And it makes the defense better because they're not out on the field every 2 minutes when Josh Allen has to go 3 and out, or, quick drives that just end very quickly. The defense doesn't have to constantly be on the field. They turn off 7, 8, 9 minutes of possession per quarter, rushes the other offense on the field. So I feel like it's a weird spot all over for the Bills. I just think as long as they can get to January, which I think they will, they'll be fine. So we'll see. Next question I have here is, I have a sneaking suspicion in my bones the Falcons could still make the playoffs, believe it or not. They have the ammo with players like London, Bijan, Pitts, our 2 pass rushers redrafted this year in the first round, Bates, and more guys. I just need Penix to pick it up. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think there's any hope for the Falcons to make the playoffs. I actually seen before I recorded here today, the playoff chances for each team, and the Falcons are like 3-something%. Now, I don't really care about that, the playoff percentage. The chances to make the playoffs per se, I don't really care. But I think that is kind of speaks volume there, is that I actually agree with the playoff chances here. I think they have like a less than 3% chance to get to the playoffs. If they do, it would be a miracle. They really have to win out from here. They really only have room to lose like one more game. And do we really trust the Falcons to go on a run and lose one more game? I don't trust Raheem Morris. I really don't trust Michael Penix either. I agree Michael Penix needs to step it up, but I don't know if it's the coaching staff. People are very questionable, including myself, about Zach Robinson's play calling for him and just that offense in general. But even still, with the play calling, I watched Penix. I watched him last week when they were playing against the Colts. Just simple out routes. He misses a lot of throws. He only had like 12 completed passes last week or something like that. He's had multiple weeks of under 50% completion percentage or something like that, 50, 60% completion percentage. So he's really kind of just been abysmal, to be honest with you. The offense is very, very stagnant. It's just not very good with a lot of high-level players. I can't imagine the Falcons keep Kyle Pitts next year. I just can't. I think next year is kind of a make or break year for Michael Penix for one, but I don't see it with Penix right now. So at least this year, I just don't see it. And I definitely don't see how all of a sudden, starting on Sunday, whoever they play on Sunday, that they do play, I don't know if they're on a bye week or not, that he just turns it on and they go on and really just sweep the rest of the season. That's really their only chance. The Falcons really since that Super Bowl with New England, they've choked a lot of games. They've not been a consistent football team. They've had a lot of, like I mentioned, a lot of choke games, just upsets all over the board. You're looking at it's like, how did the Falcons not win this game? Or how are they not playing as well as they should be? I think Raheem Morris, I seen another graphic yesterday that Raheem Morris' seat is actually like kind of lukewarm, kind of cold. I'm like, are you serious? I think Raheem Morris' seat is scorching hot. I don't see in any way how Arthur Blank and that organization brings back Raheem Morris next year, especially with the expectations they've had over the last couple of years. I don't see it. I do not see it at all. I mean, they have some really sweet players on that team. Guys you mentioned, Bijan, London, even though Pitts hasn't necessarily been what he's supposed to be, there's no doubt he's uber talented. And he shows a lot of flashes. I don't really know. I just don't think he fits with the Atlanta Falcons, to be honest with you. I almost think that they have so much good talent on offense, they just do not know how to use it at all. And it's just very apparent to me. They just need someone else running the helm, to be honest with you, because Raheem Morris is not it. I will say one thing that's a positive for the Falcons, though, is the pass rush, how bad it was in the previous season last year. To even the beginning of this season, really, they couldn't really generate much of a pass rush. How good it's gotten. The guys they drafted in the first round this year have really shown out. They had a really good game against Indy last week against New England. Was it Pierce? I mean, he's had like 34 sacks in the last couple of weeks here. So they're really starting to pick it up. That pass rush looks really good. The defense looks fantastic. But and they have been. I think they have one of the best pass defenses in the NFL. They were ranked number 1 a few weeks ago. I don't know if they still are after that Colts game or not, but they've been fantastic. I don't see the Colts, or not the Colts, the Falcons making a run here. I don't. I hate to say it. I try to be optimistic, but if they do, dude, it would be one of the greatest runs in the regular season we've seen in a while. It would be. There's just not enough momentum going forward for this team. They're just the opposite of Baltimore, really, to be honest with you. Like, they have plenty of talent, and of course Baltimore has plenty of talent as well. But Baltimore has a ton of momentum right now. They're only a game back from 500. They started off 1-5. Their division's kind of collapsing, and momentum's just going like this for Baltimore. But everything for Atlanta is just heading downwards. Their coach, Penix, everything is just not heading in the right direction for the Falcons. So I don't see it. Next question I have here is, Jonathan Taylor is the MVP 100%. I know you're a Patriots fan and you're cheering for May, but what do you think realistically, or who do you think realistically is going to take the hardware home? I think Jonathan Taylor is going to have like a historic season. He's going to have to be over 2,000 yards, which I think he's on pace to do so far. I mean, he's putting up incredible numbers so far throughout this season. Ready? He has over 800 yards after contact. That's that is seriously incredible for 10 weeks. And that's almost 1,000 yards. People can only hope to get to a 1,000 yard rushing season, more or less, get probably well over 1,000 yards after contact. That's incredible. It is. He is just having a hell of a season. I think, I love May, but I have Stafford right now leading in the MVP discussion. He's the touchdown leader, passing touchdown leader right now. Matthew Stafford has just been incredible. I watch these throws he makes. That's not May's the same way. I mean, these throws he makes, you could say the same for either quarterback, really, to be honest with you. I think May is definitely a better dual threat. I think we can all agree there. Stafford's kind of that dying breed of quarterback that just sits in the pocket all day. But man, has he just been tearing teams apart with that arm. And the entire Rams team just looks incredible. But I think if Taylor leads this team to the number 1 seed, I think it really matters of who now out of the Patriots and, the Rams and the Colts, of who's going to get that number 1 seed and who can keep this going for the longest. I think Taylor, if he has, maybe 2 games where he's under 100 yards, maybe somewhere around that, 80 yards or something like that, it's going to be hard for him. He's going to have to keep having these explosive games. He doesn't necessarily need to have every game like he did against Indianapolis last week. That was like a career game for him. But he just needs to keep having like special performances and he'll be fine. But I think he's going to be top 3 in the voting. He has to. Anyone who tries to deny Jonathan Taylor isn't in the conversation is just delusional. I'll say that. You even said me as a Drake May fan, a Patriots fan. He is 1,000% in that conversation of the MVP. If you wanted to give him the MVP trophy, like right now, the season we're in right now, I wouldn't complain. He probably is. Where the Colts were supposed to be, I would have the Colts. If they replace Jonathan Taylor with, say, even just Bryce Hall or something like that, this team wouldn't be 8-2. There's no way. They'd probably be maybe 5 wins. I think they'd be in the mix, but they wouldn't be 8-2. Taylor is the real heartbeat of this Colts organization, and he's the most valuable player, not just to the Colts, but really to the league. So I agree. Next question I have here is, hey, Matt, if you could change a couple of rules in the NFL, what would you change? Let me think. Really, I mean, this one will be kind of quick. I mean, I don't really have necessarily, I don't know let's just say in terms of the rules, I'm not necessarily where I know the entire rule book of the NFL. I mean, I know a majority of them, but I don't necessarily know if I'd change any of them. I'm not a huge fan of the kickoff rule they added in, what was it, last year or 2 years ago? I haven't been a fan of that. I've reverted back to the old kickoffs, to be honest with you. The landing zone and everything to me is just kind of stupid. And sometimes I've kind of mixed up the pass interference penalty a little bit. I think it's just called way too much. I think it's so hard to play defense as a corner because, all the receivers or tight ends or whoever's out there catching the ball, running back, whoever, the second they get any sort of contact, they're throwing their hands up. Then they know exactly what they're doing because they're most likely going to get it. And they go to initiate contact. Now, pass interference, you can go back years and years and years ago. It's always been like, is it really pass interference? It's always been a ticky-tack kind of thing. But I feel like now it's just like through the roof. Like, I feel like I see so many pass interferences that it's just like, what the hell can the defender do? I mean, I see offense all the time, just shoving guys off. Just like, it's almost like the NBA a little bit. Like Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, when he's on the elbow, shooting a mid-range or whatever it is. In the finals especially, people were going just ballistic because he's sitting there and it was either Nemhard or Mathurin, whoever the hell was on him. He's just sitting there throwing a full elbow and an arm into whoever was guarding him and just not getting called. But could you imagine if that was Mathurin, Nemhard, Halliburton before he got hurt, anyone on there who was guarding him, and they went like this? They went and threw an arm into Shea Gilgeous-Alexander's shooting motion. I mean, they'd be crucified for doing that shit. I'm not kidding. It would just be, they couldn't blow that whistle fast enough. And I'm not just saying it for Shea in general. It's the entire NBA. I just feel like teams and leagues love seeing offense because it kind of generates viewers. But sometimes it may kind of change the game a little bit to where it's like, okay, we're seeing more scoring. We're seeing a lot more explosive plays. We're seeing more offense, but at what cost? I mean, you can't play defense anymore. Of course, you're going to see more offense and more points generated if every time someone puts a pinky finger on Justin Jefferson or whoever it is, that the flag just couldn't come out faster and they're all sitting there throwing their hands up. So I'd kind of tweak the pass interference rule a little bit. I'd say, I think it's supposed to be like if there's equal contact, if there's both of them are seriously hand fighting, then just don't call it. But it's always, if they're hand fighting, it's always going to go to the defense, or 90% of the time it feels like it goes to the defense. So I don't know. I'm not, the pass interference one to me is like, I just tweak it. I wouldn't take it out. I wouldn't do anything like that, but I tweak it to be a lot more like, it really has to be blatant to call it to me. And of course, like, it doesn't necessarily need to be you grab someone by the horse collar or the collar, or you just have to throw someone down to the ground to get it. But it's just way too ticky-tack, and it's looking to be called so much. Like, and as I mentioned, offensive players, receivers, whoever, always go to initiate contact and throw their hands up and get pass interference calls. So I just think that part of the game needs to be tweaked. It's like flopping in the NFL, or in the NBA, excuse me. Like, yeah, I'm sitting there initiating contact. I'm really pulling his hands on me and flopping to the ground. How the hell is that fair? And it'll still go to the defense a majority of the time. So that to me is frustrating. I don't know. That just really kind of pisses me off when I see stuff like that sometimes. But the kickoff, and I really don't have much else. You know what? Let me say this. I don't know if this is necessarily a rule, but it's a rule I'd add. Look, I didn't care about the tush push at all, really, to be honest with you. Is it annoying if you're not an Eagles fan? Absolutely. Like, it pisses a lot of people off. Do I care? No, I don't, because if every other team could do it, they do it. And teams have tried it. It hasn't necessarily worked for them. So clearly the Eagles, hell, Jalen Hurts squats a gazillion pounds. I think I've seen the videos of him. He's just a freak at it. Like, he is very good at what he does in terms of the tush push. I know you guys are probably thinking, like, how the hell can you be very good at that? They just are. They do it at an extremely high rate. It almost seems like 100% of the time. And other teams try it, and they just can't get it at all. So clearly, like I mentioned, Hurts is doing it right because he has the legs, and they just have it down pat. But as I've seen it go throughout the season now, and it was mentioned before, but they false start like no tomorrow on that tush push play and do not get called for it. There was one against the Packers, I think, was it Monday? Oh my God, the ball wasn't even snapped. Like four people on the offensive line were literally moved up like twice. They moved up like an entire foot, and then the ball got snapped and they didn't call it. That's happened multiple times. Like, I'm kind of in favor of taking out the tush push. Look, you can get on me all you want. I get it, especially if you're an Eagles fan, you do not want to see that play go away. I get it. But if that's what it's going to be, is like it's blatantly false starts and it's not getting called when it should be. And again, I hear people say like, well, they call it sometimes. It needs to be called 100% of the time. If you're false starting, you're false starting. Refs miss penalties all the time. We're human. It happens. But if we're just going to make the excuse of, well, it only happens a couple times a game, like, I just think that's bullshit. Like, no, it shouldn't be called when it's happening. It shouldn't be called 100% of the time. I get mistakes happen, but, we're trying to make the excuse again that happens a couple of times, and that's just not good enough for me. I think that's one I'd add, and I don't really know what else, to be honest with you. I'd have to dig in the bag there a little bit. Next question I have here is, I know this is last minute here, but I still wish you put the Seahawks number 1 on your top 10 teams yesterday. I feel like the Seahawks are just that tad bit better than the Rams, honestly. It was kind of hard for me to put them at 1 or 2. It was kind of like a last-second decision with the Rams. And what led me to put the Rams at number 1 and keep the Seahawks at 2 was the fact that the Rams just do not have as many turnovers as the Seattle Seahawks do. That Cardinals game, Sam Darnold had a couple of fumbles. He is and you can say the same for Stafford. Like, Stafford has a big arm. He loves pushing the ball down the field, but he feels a lot more just kind of safe with the ball. Like, I trust the ball more in Matt Stafford's hands than I do in Sam Darnold's hands, to be completely honest with you. I just do. We've seen it in the playoff game last year with LA and Minnesota. That game wasn't even really close, and Stafford and Darnold weren't even really on the same stratosphere. That was Sam Darnold's first playoff game and everything, especially as a starter. But yeah, I think Sam Darnold is definitely prone to some turnovers. And this is the only thing I have right now on the Seahawks, to be honest with you, is I think the Seahawks, the only issue I have with them is the playoffs. Is this team experienced enough? Is Mike McDonald experienced enough as head coach to really take this team on a run in January? I don't know. Is Sam Darnold ready for that pressure in that moment? If they have the number 1 seed, the number 2 seed, whatever it is, that team has to be ready to have some serious pressure on them. And it's just like, are they ready for that? I'm not saying that they're not by any stretch. They're clearly plenty talented to do so. But in terms of mentally, having the confidence to do so, it's hard. That gets to a lot of players' heads. And, that's really the only issue I have with Seattle. They hit hard. Their defense is so fast that they look like the fastest team in the league. If I just say in terms of talent, Seattle is one of the most talented teams in the NFL. There's no doubt they're one of the fastest teams in the league. They're just so quick. I love the Rashid Shaheed trade they made a few weeks ago at the end of the trade deadline. Just fantastic. I love everything they're doing. Schneider's just been fantastic as a GM. Everything has been working and going in the Seattle Seahawks' favor. But the only thing that put the Rams overhead of the Seahawks, like I mentioned, was just the turnovers. That's really the only thing, is that I trust Matt Stafford in that offense a little more than I do with the Seattle Seahawks offense. I'm going to be completely honest. The Seahawks offense is very young. And I just think, to me, they're kind of prone to some mistakes. So, and they have been. They've made more mistakes than the Rams so far this year. But I've seen a couple power rankings so far, especially today and yesterday, that they have Seattle up at number 1. And I'm not complaining. If you wanted to put Seattle at number 1, that's completely up to you. I'm fine with that. But like I mentioned, the turnovers is the only things that really put the Rams above the Seahawks for me. Last question I have here is, did you see Tyler Shough on Sunday against the Carolina Panthers? I actually think we have a franchise QB. He looked way better than Bryce Young, and it gives me hope for us. I did see Tyler Shough. I've seen the game live. Again, I have all the games up whenever on Sunday. I have all the games up on TV or my phone or whatever it is. I always have all of them up on my screen. And, it's always kind of like up at the upper left or the upper right. I don't necessarily, I'm a Patriots fan, so I'm really paying attention, especially when the Patriots play the Bucs. Some games obviously just have your eye over others. If it's a big time game, you have bigger markets, you kind of have to pay attention to those games more than some others. But I love watching all the games regardless. And I seen Tyler Shough. He had a beautiful throw to Olave on the sideline. It was a deep ball. And he was moving really well out there. I was really impressed because I was kind of shitting on Tyler Shough before the season, to be honest with you. I was like, why are you wasting a second-round pick and you're going to start Spencer Rattler? Like, I don't really understand. Now, whether or not he's our franchise QB is way, way too early to tell. But I think there is maybe some signs pointing that way, that maybe, hey, do we have to draft a quarterback next year, or should we use it in more of a position of need to fill some holes? Now, you could argue a quarterback, or I don't think you can argue, and then we could all agree that quarterback is the most position of need. It is. Every team needs a good quarterback. I don't care who you are, I don't know how good your roster is. If you're out there rolling with a scrub, you're not going to do anything. But Shough definitely has shown some sort of potential. He has a big arm. He has a really strong arm. I was actually really impressed with how good his arm looked out there, how well he's moved. Honestly, some of his decisions looked really good. On fourth down, he looked calm and collected. Also have to remember something with Tyler Shough. He's like 26 years old. He is, I think he's the same age or a little older than Trevor Lawrence. I mean, this guy is a very old rookie. Very old. He's one of the older ones, I think, in NFL history. I think the only one that's older is like Brandon Weeden, if I'm not mistaken, but rookie quarterback at least. Shough definitely shows some sort of experience out there. I think we have to just see how it goes out the rest of the year. Now, in terms of him looking better than Bryce Young, he definitely looked better than Bryce Young in that game. Bryce Young is definitely one of the things, and I made a prediction about Bryce Young at the beginning of the season to win MVP. Not win MVP, be in the MVP conversation. I was like, did I just say win MVP? No, be in the MVP conversation. He's definitely not anywhere close to it. The Panthers are at 500, and they showed signs of life. I think a lot of that is due to the defense and Rico Dowdle so far. One of the things I underestimated about Bryce Young, and kind of one of the things I thought wouldn't necessarily be as much as a problem, because you see Russell Wilson, you see guys like that. But Russell Wilson, you never really seen an issue with his height, knowing that he's only 5'10", because he was just very built. Like he was just built like very thick. You didn't know that he looked like he was 6 foot, 6'1". That's kind of one of the things with Caleb Williams and Baker is like, those guys are only barely 6 foot tall. But you wouldn't really guess. I mean, they look shorter than guys like Josh Allen, of course, but you wouldn't really guess it. I mean, and Russell Wilson's 2-3 inches shorter than like Baker and Caleb Williams. And you look at him out there and it's like, you wouldn't really guess, to be honest with you. But I think Bryce Young's only about an inch shorter than Russell Wilson. And he looks like he's like a foot shorter than everyone else he's playing with or against. It's pretty incredible. And one of the things I underestimated was Bryce Young's height would really be that much of an issue, because I think it was to Teteroa McMillan or whoever it was just a simple out route. And it had to be converted, and I think it ended up being it was an interception or just a really bad incompletion. He just completely missed him. I forget which one it was. And he just couldn't see over the lineman. He had to like get it around the lineman, and it was just really bad. And I think that's one of the things with Bryce is like, I think if he was 2-3 inches taller, which of course he can't just do out of nowhere, he'd be one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. But his height is a serious issue. And I just think his frame in general. I mean, he's just a very small dude. Like, he is very small. That's something, we've been to, but he had comparisons to Drew Brees coming out of the draft. And I do see him, like, he does show some sort of inaccuracies at times, but, I just think his biggest disadvantage is his height, and he can't do anything about it. So, I think that's just kind of an issue with Bryce Young that I had, that in terms of the long term, it's like, can we pay this guy $200 million to be our franchise quarterback? I'd have no issue maybe paying him a little over $100 million over 3-4 years. Again, he has a negative record by a lot, so I guess we'll see. But that's it for today's video, y'all. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want your questions answered on the next Why Not Wednesday, make sure to @TalkOfTheTown_pod. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Take it easy.